The man we have coming inside of here, okay, I am especially interested to talk with him, and I want to talk with him because he is not only deeply steeped in ecom lore, okay, once heading up sales at Springbot. If you remember that, okay, before other
Yeah.
players came into the game, once heading up things, sales over at Springbot, helping people figure out their email, et cetera, et cetera. He's done several things since then. He is now head of revenue at Contrarian Thinking. And we want to get his mind. We want to get his mind on what is happening on Main Street, what opportunities there are today, and what maybe some of us who are continually selling things online have missed in terms of opportunities in more boring businesses. I am talking about the one and only Travis Wheeler. Travis, get inside this show, sir. Get in here. Yes.
What's up, guys?
There he is.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're glad to have you, brother.
Yeah, how about that?
This has been a conversation a long time coming. I don't think we've even gotten to hang out in person yet, Travis. But first of many times here. Not yet.
It's coming. It's coming soon.
It's coming soon. Well, man, we appreciate you coming on here, brother. I feel that, from years past, much of our world in D2C has kind of worshipped what's happening with Shark Tank founders and VC backed brands and things. There's just a lot of excitement around that, but it hasn't always translated to actual profitable businesses that puts money in your pocket at the end of the day. It just hasn't always translated to that. When you came up in ecom marketing, I'd love for you to just give us some perspective on what has much of our world missed when it comes to opportunity, when it comes to making businesses work, selling sexy things on the internet versus what's happening on Main Street. What have we been too distracted by? What's going on there today in the world that you live in every day?
Yeah, I mean, don't want to discount what's happening in the ecom world. I mean, I spent, 2014 through the end of 2022 in that world, and ran sales for 3 different prominent software companies, and a lot of fun. I mean, I still remember those e-commerce conferences, like we used to have them every year in Vegas, all over the place.
Baby.
I mean, I've done weddings, bachelor parties, all that sort of thing in Vegas, and some of the hardest I've ever gone, I think, was with the ecom out in Vegas. So, got to show my ecom love there. But I think when you look at it nowadays, right? I mean, the buying patterns, how people purchase goods, I mean, all of that got thrown on its head when COVID hit, right? You had people that were primarily just go to retail stores, and it just introduced this whole new market of e-commerce customers. And now you look at it with AI coming into it and the AEO and how is that going to affect how people consume and buy products? Obviously, Amazon has been massive. So I personally, have been sourcing from early 2014, 2015, 2016, sourcing these Shopify stores and businesses that are now big and have retail stores all over the place. I was cold calling, trying to sell my email marketing software too.
Yeah,
and so
baby.
Personally, for me, as I've followed those brands, now I'm a huge fan, and there's a lot of deep loyalty there. And I think a lot of consumers try to find ways to shop with companies or brands that are a bit outside of the norm. And I think that's the reason why Bruce Bolt got so big out of nowhere, right? It just it went viral and it caught steam. And but how those two things differ, I think these days ecom is just not as stable as it was 5-10 years ago, right? What we're seeing a lot in contrarian thinking is people that are experienced in maybe other industries. Ecom is actually one where we see a lot of folks coming into the Contrarian Academy thinking how do I diversify? How do I think about growing my digital business over here? But how can I take that skill set and now apply it to something that is a bit more boring, more Main Street, more local to my area? I think one of the things that I love most about it, I grew up as a little kid, and I know you did too, Chris, playing sports. And you think back to the little league teams that you played against. And my mom and grandma ran an advertising agency. They sponsored all my football, baseball teams. And so that was always pretty cool. But I still remember like the teams I played against, like Bill's Muffler, House of Floors. It was always just like these little, just standard businesses. Like Coriel Plumbing was one, and I kind of grew to resent some of those businesses, right? Because I was like, oh, I was clashing against them. But that's the backbone of our small towns. Like I'm a small town guy. It's the backbone of our small towns all across the country, and there's a real threat happening that we're really trying to like help fight against, and that's private equity, right? They're coming in, they're buying up these service businesses, they're buying up these boring businesses, they're buying up storage facilities and car washes, and they're obviously, you guys are aware that they're coming into the e-commerce game, like on the warehousing side, on the logistics side, on the software side. And so, we really try to maintain that ownership at the local level is a big part of what we're trying to do.
That's powerful, man. That's
Travis,
powerful.
that's incredible. Could you kind of give folks a little bit more of the history of Contrarian Thinking, a little bit more of what you guys are doing right now, the history of it, where it started, and what you guys are focused on today?
Absolutely. Yeah. So it was founded by Cody Sanchez. She's our fearless leader, and she's very inspiring. So she was doing this when she was working for Wall Street. She was at Vanguard, she was at Goldman Sachs, and she kind of was at first, I think, a little, I don't know if maybe embarrassed is the right word, but like she bought a laundromat to start, and like this thing was cash flowing behind the scenes. And she's like, man, I've really got something here. She started, now I think it's over 25 businesses in her own personal portfolio. She's entrenched with Resi Brands, which is a local franchise. Maybe you guys have heard of like paint window washers out of there. And so, that's it. It kind of was all born from there. And just Cody's spirit is she understands there's a massive opportunity at hand. I can't do this whole thing alone. We've got it. She sees what's happening with private equity. I mean, she worked for private equity, and it's obviously not a good thing. It's not good for America. It's not good for our economy. It's not good for, small towns. And like, that's the majority of our country. And so she was like, we've got to inspire more people to own. And when you think about wealth creation, right? I mean, you think about like freedom is the new rich. That's what they say. It's like people that have more time on their hands. They're the rich people, right? And so you want to be like them, but how do you actually get there? It's not by finding a remote job that you can just like skirt by at a big company. Like now you're getting cut because AI is going to replace a lot of that.
I think that's true. I think that's true, Travis. I do.
Yeah, it's you have to lean in. You have to work hard. Ultimately, if you want that financial freedom, the path to that, the majority of millionaires, they own businesses. So it's inspiring that next generation of owners, but it's also maintaining like what I think we all grew up knowing and loving about like our small towns. Like we want to work with somebody that's like our neighbor down the street, not some corporation that's, running like multiple companies in our hometown. It's just when you start to monopolize that ownership, it's going to have that cascading effect downstream.
Could you talk a little bit about and give people a little bit more insight into what actually happens when a massive PE comes in and buys up a small business? We always talk about it, but I think few people understand the actual logistics and what PE is actually going to do to this small business. They think it's a great thing. Everybody thinks, oh, great. They're getting involved. They're getting capital. Not so much the case. I would love for you to kind of explain what happens when big PE comes in and kind of takes over.
Yeah. Well, there's only the people, the owner that maybe is going to benefit, right? That has the equity that's like selling out. I've seen this firsthand, actually, at my last software company, which really inspired me to get involved with Cody and kind of like get on a mission that I was super inspired by. You have private equity come in and they throw their weight around. They bring in the hundreds of millions of dollars. The last company I was with, we took a $375 million round, and sure, it helped accelerate our growth, but like it wasn't long before the suits started showing up. Right. And like the culture, the soul of the company, the culture of the company just getting like sucked out of the room. And it happened, it's scary how quick it happens. You start to see people that have been there for a long time. They're super valuable. Nope, they're not going to help us get to the next level. And you start to lose this institutional intelligence and just awareness on like where the business has been, where it's going. And a lot of times they come in with ego, right? Where it's like they don't try to make an attempt of like, what makes this business so good? Well, little do they know, it's like all the relationships and the sponsorships and the things that they do in that local economy, maybe to build those relationships and build that reputation. And once you stop doing certain things and you're only focused on your P&L and how you can cut cost and increase pricing, I mean, there's effects to that, right? I mean, it's gonna turn off your customer base and people that have been loyal to you for potentially for years. So yeah, I mean, it's not always like that, right? There are definitely some smaller PE shops that can come into an environment like that and make it better and bring a lot of expertise. But there's some that are just trying to like do a playbook, be super cold with it, not just look at employees like a line item on an Excel sheet. That's typically where you see those ramifications.
Travis, I am particularly interested in what you're doing now. And I feel like you really understand where a lot of people in D2C are coming from. You know, I think our generation has been greatly affected by the 4-hour work week, right? We picked up the laptops and the promise is freedom. The promise is freedom. Now, even if you're remote and you've got, you know, great benefits and such, we all know that, you know, you spend more time looking at that screen than you do anything else. And that's fine. That's work. But my wonder is, I know that there's a lot of people, a lot of marketers, people who are somewhere in the middle of the org, or maybe they're toward the bottom of the org chart or whatever. They have an ache that they want ownership. They do want freedom. They do want freedom.
Yeah.
And I have some wonder, you know, is there more for your standard marketer if they want to own something? Is there more than just, I'll start a D2C brand someday, or I'll start a marketing agency? Not that there's anything wrong with those, but is there more? And I think there is. My question for you is, for people who are in D2C, and they want to explore this path of going Main Street, buying a boring business. And are there skills that naturally translate that you see with the people that you work with, you helping people make that transition? Any insight on that?
Absolutely. You know, we really help people narrow and focus in on their zone of genius, right? So, I mean, a lot of times it's like Cody talks about her first business being a laundromat. People get really obsessed with that. Like they come in like, I want a laundromat. You know, it's like, well, not everyone's going to be able to own a laundromat. And that's an easy business, right? Like we also try to help people find businesses that you can come in and improve upon and like optimize it, because you want performance to grow, right? If this thing netting, you know, 150, 200K a year, and it's a laundromat that's like got coin operated machines, think about just Apple Pay tapping that thing, right? You're gonna have to invest some money to be able to like switch in and add that tech. But now that machine's gonna do a lot more work because you don't have people like fumbling around with coins and like going and trying to put their dollars into the coin machine, and like all that time takes between just washing and drying your clothes, right? Adding wash and fold, right? So we look for businesses not only like that are cash flowing, that are doing well, but what can we improve upon, right? How can we make a profitable business more profitable? You know, maybe by introducing automation, just better technology. AI obviously is a big contributor these days. But ultimately, I think when you have people that are like, oh, I just want to own a business and make more money, passive income, it's not easy. Right. It's not for the people, like, it's not for the faint of heart. Like you're going to come in and like learn how to do this and learn how to acquire a new business and like go through that process of hunting a business. Because there's two types, right? There's on-market businesses, which are like saying, hey, my business is for sale. We have a platform in-house called BizScout, where we're now the largest online marketplace in the US for businesses to buy and sell.
Wow.
So that's a really big asset for our Contrarian Thinking members, is they can come in and use BizScout. And so like we help them focus on their zone of genius. Like you guys, you could buy an e-commerce company, but like you also have digital marketing skills. You're very like well-spoken guys, like you build relationships, right? There's a lot of things that we would take from your skill sets that you could apply to a lot of different businesses.
Please continue, Travis. I mean, keep going. I mean,
Bring
what
it
else?
on. Yeah.
what
we
else
like
you got?
this.
Yeah, keep going. What else do we have?
So yeah, we try to help people understand, like, what are we really good at? We call it their deal box, right? So it's like you take your zone of genius, all the things that you actually are good at, you translate that down to your deal box. And it's like, okay, these are the businesses that we think you could actually go and run. These are the size of businesses that, based on your cash on hand or like how you want to seller finance or get an SBA loan approval, that you can actually go and buy. And so we'll load up our system with all of this criteria. BizScout's going to start matching us to businesses in a certain geographic location or wherever we're looking for that business. So it makes that process of finding that business a lot easier. But like going and owning a business, like you're creating work. It's not necessarily like, okay, now I own this business. It's cash flowing. I don't have to do a lot.
Yeah.
You've got to go in there and like fix problems, create process, place an operator if you want to place an operator, not run the day-to-day management. But like we're getting people to make 2-year, 3-year, 5-year, 10-year decisions here, right? Which is like you could buy a business that's cash flowing and like you put some money down, you get seller financing, what have you, and like you're profiting at the end of year 1 or like 18 months later. Once that loan's paid off in 5, 6, 7 years, whatever the terms are, you are now cash flowing like another 200, 250. If you can grow that business in that time frame, then that's what we're trying to do. Then it's rinse and repeat. How do I do that 3, 4, 5 times to where now I'm easily clearing $1 million a year and I'm working 4 or 5, like maybe 3 to 4 hours a week per business.
It's powerful, man. I love that. I know
it's not easy to get there, but that's like the end game.
I love the details too that you talked about on, hey, your zone of genius, this deal box, we think you'd be good for. I mean, if I were going to buy a business, that's exactly what I would need. I would need hand holding, and I would need like, hey, we've done this 1,000 times. This I think is going to be great for you. You're going to be looking for this kind of, I mean, I think that's incredible.
Yeah. Travis, I mean, when you're going through this, you touched on it a little bit, but if I were to give you basically, okay, I have unlimited wallet, the bank account is whatever you want it to be. Are there verticals right now that you're seeing that you absolutely are in love with it? I know you mentioned the laundromat and that type of vertical, but is there anything right now where you're saying, God, these are like my top 3 that I'm just obsessed with right now? I've seen great operators grow in there. You can go in there and you can add 20% to this almost overnight or, in the next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really get overly obsessed with any business right now. It's like there's some areas where private equity, like Bobby, he's our president of BizScout, and I just saw a LinkedIn post that he did yesterday, which is like service businesses now. You got to really look at those because they're overpriced for what they're actually doing. And a lot of that is because private equity, that's been a really hot one, plumbing companies, electricians, HVAC for sure, especially in Texas, right? Like AC goes out. I mean, name one bigger problem on your list. Like,
True.
Especially this summer, right? Like everything ends. We got to fix this AC unit now. I don't care what it costs. So that's a big business to be in right now. But, it really boils down to, we have a team of advisors. There are deal advisors that are extremely valuable. I mean, we have right now over 3,000 members in our academy. The deal velocity is high. Just being in there, being a part of our Slack channels, our community, you're seeing so many deals come and go that we're saying, no, that's not the best deal for these reasons, or we really like this deal for you. It like fits really well within what you're looking to do within your zone of genius, your deal box. But like, we don't like it at this price point. We actually think it's a really good deal for you here. These are all the reasons why. This is what we've seen. This is like the data that we have around this. This is what like the valuation should be in a business like this that's maybe clearing this much in SDE. And a lot of times members, we try to prevent them from getting too emotionally tied to these businesses, which is a problem because they're like, oh my gosh, like this is perfect business for me. And it's like, yeah, but there's like a massive red flag here. Like, let's say 40% of the revenue comes from one big customer. What if you lose that customer? Like no longer a good business, right? Yeah. So we help them understand like what are those yellow flags, red flags, landmines within that deal that, ultimately we need to help you uncover and really suss out like how big of a risk is this? And oftentimes like we'll convince people that's not the right deal. And they're like, oh, are you sure? And then it ends up like that thing blows up later down the line.
Wow.
And we were right around it, or we help them negotiate down, because like sometimes an owner's firm on price, but when you can actually educate them on, actually, it's really not worth that. This is why, here's where the risk is. And they're like, you know what, that actually makes sense. And we're saving people 6 figures throughout that process. Like, it's happening quite often.
I love this, you
Yeah.
guys' involvement on the purchasing side, you know, the reasoning, man, helping like hey, maybe you can educate the owner on this and negotiate down, etc. I mean, that's gold. There's actually a friend of mine who just bought a kind of fledgling D2C brand and has really, you know, zhuzhed that thing up. But it was this piece right here that you mentioned, educating. Like, no, hey, it's worth this because of this. How many other offers do you have? You don't, because of this and this and this. And it's that piece that made that a profitable purchase that has, you know, that has become a win-win for everybody involved. I love that. I love that, Travis. Wow.
And, I mean, the education can also be on seller financing. Like, that's a really popular term in the academy, right? Because you have these businesses that they've been around for a while. Sometimes they're like ready to exit. They want that kind of like lump sum payment. You know, you go through a DSBA or a bank loan or what have you. But a lot of times there's benefits to not doing that, right? Like, you have to pay that capital gains tax like right away versus parsing that out. If you play the bank, you're going to make more in interest.
Yeah.
A lot of times when you can come in, present yourself as a very qualified buyer, maybe that has distinct knowledge in that specific industry or in that kind of business, and you can, if there's ways that you can convince the owner, it's like, I am going to take your business to the next level. Like, your business is going to make more. If you can do a little bit of like profit sharing on that as well. Now it's like, as a seller, I'm like, okay, I got somebody that I really think is going to take my business to the next level. They've like documented exactly how they're going to do that. I know I have no process in my business. I know I have like maybe a bunch of C and B players in my business. This seems like a really good operator to come in, take it to the next level. And like, I can now be on a beach somewhere getting these payments. It's not like this big lump sum that I'm like, okay, what do I do with all this cash and money? Do I invest it somewhere else? And sometimes that's a burden for people too, versus like, all right, I know over the next 7 years, I'm going to have these consistent payouts. I can plan my retirement a little bit more effectively that way. And ultimately try and make more money. And so we help the buyers and sellers structure those deals where it's a win-win, and we can cut the bank completely out of it. But usually that's obviously going to be somewhere between maybe 40 to 60% of the sale price, 60 on the high end, because it's usually what we call the trifecta, like a mixture of a down payment, an SBA loan, and then the seller financing.
Travis, brother, there's a whole lot about this. I mean, of course, I know why Contrarian Thinking is succeeding. Obviously, Cody is incredible. She's just an incredible person. She's so articulate, but there's mission behind this. And then you guys have processes on the backside here that are actually helping, you know, handhold and navigate people through to a win-win on the other side. Brother, we appreciate you making the time and coming on here. We want to have you back too. Where can people find you, talk with you? They want to start learning about the whole thing, figure out if, you know, buying a small business, going Main Street is the way for them. Where can they find you, talk with you, start working with you?
Yeah. Contrarianthinking.co is our website. Come check us out there. We've got events going on. So that's just one side of the business. We have the academy side, which is all focused on business acquisition. And then we have the growth boardroom, which is all focused on scaling. So now there's kind of that natural ascension, right, of people that buy businesses. We help them scale more profitably. I help them from all things like sales, marketing, go-to-market, how to implement CRM, align that to your sales operations, right? So like we go very deep in like the people operations, the marketing side, content. We're obviously very good at content. We've got, I think, 13 million followers across our different channels. YouTube's very big for us, of course. But you can find us on our social channels. Follow us there. Follow Cody. She's always, you know, got got great advice and perspective on what we're doing in the academy and for boardroom as well. I would say catch us at a live event. We've got one here in Austin next month. For all of you e-commerce, we actually did one last month and it was awesome. We could try and keep it very tight and personal. So we had about 100 business owners, a little over 100 in a room, and we just 3-day workshop of like all things scaling, how to leverage and implement AI into your business, how to find these streamline in your business to where your like team is focusing on revenue producing activity. So we go really deep there. And then anyone that wants to connect with me personally, find me on LinkedIn. That's a pretty easy way to do it.
We'll do it. Travis, we appreciate you coming on. We look forward to having you back, brother. Thanks for what
All
you're
right.
doing.
Thanks so much, guys. Yeah.